Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, a very moving story from Palestine and the extraordinary tale of the hostage who went back to Colombia. But we begin, of course, with the continuing unrest in the Middle East. While there have been plenty of headlines about Colonel Gaddafi this week, protests have continued markedly across the Middle East, and in particular in the tiny Gulf state of Bahrain. A week after 7 people were killed in a security crackdown, demonstrators are once again camping out in the capital's Pearl Square, but after the military had withdrawn at the weekend. The protesters are calling for the government to resign and for more political reform. So, what now? Well, joining me is Bahrain's Foreign Minister, Khalid al-Khalifa. Mr. Foreign Secretary, you said in one of your speeches in the last few days that you are promising a different kind of politics, to come out of the negotiations which have not really started yet. How would you like there to be a different kind of politics there in Bahrain?
Well, as of what happened 10 years ago when His Majesty promised a different kind of politics and initiated a dialogue with people, and that ended up with a national charter that got us through a new era for Bahrain. Now this is again, we are doing it and we are moving forward with the promises and real promises to talk to everybody in Bahrain, talk to the people, answer all the demands, and discuss them in a very genuine way. And we're looking forward to do it very soon.
Yes, when do you hope that will take place? Because obviously the negotiations and the discussions about discussions have obviously been going on since last Thursday and so on. When would you hope that you will be able to sit down with the representatives of the protesters and everything? Would you hope that will happen within the next week?
Yes, most of the period since last Thursday was a period of to reach calm and to prepare for this dialogue. And we are there. We are now in a very calm situation in Bahrain. The protesters are protesting, and the work is being done in preparation for the dialogue. So I do, yes, expect it to commence within the next week, but we ask everybody to respond positively to that dialogue because we are genuinely keen, and we believe that this is our way forward for Bahrain.
Well, that's very clear, yes, because obviously the events of, looking back on it, the events, particularly the events of last Thursday and the 7 deaths were obviously a mistake, but in the last few days you would be seem to be regaining some of that lost ground yourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. What happened last Thursday and Friday were tragic events. And Bahrain is not used to deaths happening in political protests. We are used to protests all the time, and what happened is tragic and it's being investigated. But definitely the situation is going back to almost normal, and people coming back to talk to each other. And that's what naturally makes us in a position to regain our strength and move forward.
And it would seem, Foreign Secretary, from what you've said, that in terms of these negotiations when they're ready to start, that no subject, you've said, and your colleagues have said, no subject is ruled out. Obviously, you can't say in advance exactly what the outcome's going to be, but is that right to say that no subjects of the debate about the position of the royal family and all these issues,
absolutely
everything can be discussed?
Everything can be discussed. This is a real dialogue. This is a national dialogue where everybody can come to the table, and it won't be helpful to exclude any subject that is being demanded by the people or by one group or another. That won't help the dialogue to succeed. So we are so keen here to have it to be successful, and nothing will be excluded. Everything will be on the table.
So the result of this could be more, for instance, could be more democracy in Bahrain?
There's no doubt about that.
That's very clear. Tell me, what is it that one area that keeps coming up and so on, and Foreign Secretary, is the area of the Shia majority in Bahrain, and the fact that despite that majority, out of 50 government posts, only 4 are held by Shias, and Shias are not allowed to be in the Bahraini Defence Force and so on. Are those issues that, having been discussed, do you think can be constructively resolved in your negotiations?
Of course. Of course, these are issues to be discussed, you know, configuration of government, representation, all issues that can be discussed. Whatever issue that is a concern for any group in our society is there to be discussed and to be addressed properly. And we look forward to hear it from them, and definitely we've seen these issues before. We made headways in these issues, same issues before, and that doesn't prevent us from moving forward again.
Moving forward again, yes. And human rights groups do, Foreign Secretary, sometimes complain that Sunnis from Yemen and Pakistan and Jordan are moving to Bahrain, having their citizenship fast-tracked, and are then joining the security police and so on. That's a sort of ongoing complaint from Shias. How can you improve the relationships with the Shia population, do you see, Foreign Secretary?
Well, you know, the Shia population are a part of our society, so we don't see it as a Sunni Shia problem or as a government Shia problem. This is a problem that our country is facing, and we will definitely address it, but we would like to prefer not to go along sectarian lines in this dialogue coming up. We would prefer it to be a dialogue between all Bahrainis, and this what would make it a healthy dialogue. And there's no doubt that every component of our society, including the Shias, the Sunnis, and everyone, and including the expats who are living with us here and an important part of our economy, everyone has a say. So definitely issues like these, issues of naturalization can be discussed, and we have a case to put forward, and complaints are there, and we think we will always reach an agreeable solution.
How about the situation in the world around you, like Libya and so on? Does that affect people's attitudes in Bahrain? I mean, the Libyan attitude is rather different to the Bahraini attitude.
Well, there's no doubt that what's happening in Libya is very tragic. It's complete mayhem, and that makes us worry about this important country overlooking the Mediterranean, just south of Europe, a member of the Arab League, and you know, we do want it to be stable and open up and be more democratic. But definitely the situation is different than what happened in other places like Tunisia, Egypt, or even here in Bahrain, which is also very different. But there's no doubt what brings all this region together is that there's a wave of transformation happening all over the place, and every country will be affected one way or another. Maybe already all of them already affected somehow by taking positive policies. So let's look at it positively. Only successful countries that have a good partnership between ruler and the people, between government and civil society, those are the countries that will succeed. Otherwise, what I'm worried about, and we're seeing an example, say, like for maybe in Libya or some other countries, I'm worried about countries that the people are not well represented or living in constant fear.
And in fact, you said a day or two ago, in the days since February the 14th, I've aged a decade. May we never experience such tragedies in Bahrain again. That's been the effect on you of this crisis.
Actually, I was retweeting a friend of mine who was on Twitter, and he said he aged a decade and then wished Bahrain all the best, and I added the word amen. I wish Bahrain all the best.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us, Foreign Minister, today. We really appreciate that. Great thanks.
Thank you.
Great thanks.
Thank you very much.
During